and founder of Multitude. Thank you, Brooke. Sweet, so kicking off the recording. So yes, hello, I'm Lauren, I'm the CEO and founder of Multitudes. We do engineering metrics, but without the creepiness. And this Tech Leader Chats community, our bigger goal here was to create a space where engineering leaders could learn and grow together, and to do it in a community that cares about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it's not necessarily the focus of all of our topics, but as people coming here, one, we've all agreed to the code of conduct and to treat each other respectfully. And we're also people that know that the equity and inclusion work is part of building effective teams. So that was the vision for this community. And we're super excited to be hearing today from Sabeen. Everyone that we've brought in as a speaker, we bring in people that have been highly recommended to us, and something really unique that's happened with Sabeen. So we already had team members that had worked with her that said, hey, she's amazing at this, have her come talk. But then the other thing that happened is as we were going out and telling people about this event, other people who heard about it proactively came to me and said, hey, yes, Sabeen is really great. You're so lucky that she's coming in to speak. So yeah, just super excited, so grateful that you're sharing your time and your insights with us. And to share a little bit, I'll do a little bit of the bio about Sabeen and then hand it over to you. So, I mean, amazing person to speak about this. She's been leading engineering teams, both as a director of engineering at HashiCorp, now running the engineering team at Ockham, both with very globally distributed teams. And she's also someone who cares deeply about building both happy and healthy teams. And then on the personal side, we always love sharing some of the human side. She's got 4 kids and a husband. So she mentions that she's got no free time, but loves playing board games, which we at the Multitudes team can very much resonate with. So with that, let me hand it over to you, Sabeen.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for that intro, Lauren. I appreciate it. I'm super excited to talk to you all, and also in the breakout sessions to get to know you all better and have some good conversations there. So let me share with you all some fancy slides that I made. And let me just go ahead and set up and get into presenter mode. And thank you, Vivek, for showing me how to get into this mode and not show you all my tabs. I'm one of those people. I have embraced the tabs. So I've got this is pretty good for me, or this amount of tabs that you all just saw is pretty good. It gets pretty bad at times, but anyway. All right, so I'm going to talk to you all today about team engagement on remote teams. Just an intro, a little bit of intro to myself. As Lauren said, my name is Sabeen Syed. I'm currently the VP of Engineering at Ockam. Ockam is a company that builds developer tools in the security space. We are currently remote as well as global. We are also open source. We just released our cloud service that we're super excited about called Ockam Orchestrator. We're also hiring. We have a lot of engineering recs open, solutions engineer recs, and product recs. So if you are interested, we would love to talk to you. All right, okay, enough about the shameless plug there. Let's get into a little bit more about just my experience and just building on what Lauren was saying. So Ockam is fully remote and global all over the world. We hire folks from pretty much anywhere. Before Ockam, I was working at HashiCorp. HashiCorp is fully remote. It has been fully remote from its inception, therefore pre-pandemic. And there was a lot of learning on my side around how to build environments that are autonomous and where people can work async as well. Before HashiCorp, I worked at Rackspace. Rackspace was a hybrid environment. We had some people who would go on site, some people who would work from fully remote, some people like me who would kind of do half-half. And then we also had a multiple number of office locations. So one was in Austin, Texas, where I live. And then there's one in San Antonio, Texas, where the headquarters were. And then I think there's one in San Francisco as well. So basically, I've had a lot of experience working with different types of remote teams, some hybrid, some fully remote, some global. So that's been super fun. Lots of learning there, and I'm happy to share some of that with y'all today. one thing to know about me is my ultimate goal is to build happy, healthy, productive teams. You'll see that kind of underlining everything that I'm going to talk to you all about today. So, all right. Okay, let's start off with a throwback. So I'd like y'all to think about when or what was the ideal engineering environment that you have worked in? What was that like? Did you have a good relationship with your manager? Did you have a good relationship with your peers? Were folks just more personable? Did you have open, transparent communication? Was it a safe space where you felt like you could voice your opinion, you could ask questions, you can challenge each other in a positive way? Did you feel respected? Did you feel like you were advancing in your career? I could ask you a whole ton of these questions, and I feel like we could totally like riff on this and what that environment could look like. One thing that I want to point out is that whenever I ask this question, the baseline of all of the answers is an environment that's built on trust. Good relationships come out of that. Open, transparent communication comes out of that. Respect comes out of that foundation of trust. So that is basically what the focus of my topic is going to be. So that's going to be team engagement through building trust. And there's going to be 5 factors that I'm going to talk to you all about. You see this slide here, and it has 5 little rocks on it. Those are not the ones that I'm going to talk to you all about it today. That was just like a nice little image that I found, you know, on the Googles. And I was like, that's nice, has a baseline of trust. Anyway, so that's the main thing that I want you all to walk away with from this particular slide, is that everything has an underlying factor of building trust. And another thing that I want y'all to know before I really get into everything is that this content is pretty dense. I will try my best to keep it within a decent amount of time, so like the 20-25 minutes, and I will share this information, or I'll put the slides up somewhere so that y'all can get it and y'all can go through it later if that is something that you're interested in. All right, so first thing first of the 5 that I wanted to start out with was one of the core avenues of building trust, and that is through your one-on-ones. This is your time as leaders to get to know your team members, understand what they like to do, what they want to improve, what they're struggling with, and overall who they are as people. I truly believe if you use your one-on-ones well, it's a great avenue to build that foundation and that connection with your team members. The way that I like to gauge if my one-on-ones are going well is basically through this tweet from Shreyas Doshi. He's a product manager that has worked at many companies. So he says there's 2 tests that can reveal a lot about your relationship with your manager. Number 1, do you usually look forward to your one-on-ones with them, or do you dread them? At the end of a one-on-one, do you feel more energetic than when you started, the same or less? And I feel like this is actually, honestly, I haven't done it till yet, and I want to do that, but I want to create like an autonomous survey, send that to my team members at some regular intervals to get that feedback. Because I feel like this is super important. I feel like when you do things where your team members are looking forward, to talking with you and feeling more energetic after they left a one-on-one, I feel like that's a great way to know that, yes, you are building that trust with your team members. All right, so the goals of your one-on-ones, building trust is the first one. Some of the hows around that is, or that I like to do, and that has helped me a lot, is ask your team members about their morale. Ask how they are doing as people. I like to do a 1 to 5 scale as well. 1 meaning, life is not going, happy, you're not a happy camper. 5 is, everything is rainbows and unicorns. And that really helps to set the stage and to have that conversation of what's going well, what's not going well, how can I make things better? And then asking them what is top of mind for them, what do they want to talk about, giving them that opportunity to be able to take that one-on-one and own it, and to bring up things that are going on, on their side. And then the third one, like I mentioned before, motivating your team members. Super important. Know their strengths, use positive reinforcement. For all the parents out there, I feel like we've heard positive reinforcement a number of times. I think it's super, super important. And yeah, I love receiving that myself. And then the other thing is ask for their feedback. And this is really important, again, to building that trust. An example of this is I just started retros at Ockam, and I wanted to know, how they're going. And I feel like when I ask my team members on a one-on-one basis, it's letting them know that I value their opinion and I want to gain their insight about how things are going. All right, and then after that, career advancement is the second goal of one-on-ones, or that has helped me in the past. And in this case is know and talk about their career goals and begin to create a path for them, and continue to touch base. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of the next points. All right, getting to point number 2, and that is setting expectations. So set expectations with the folks that report to you, your peers, as well as your upper management. This enables you to set the guidelines to make sure that trust doesn't break later, if that makes sense. You are basically having those discussions, making sure that, this is what I expect from you, or what you expect from me, and making sure, we talk about it and we see what makes sense. And it gives you more of that understanding of what somebody else is doing. And then also they get an understanding of what you are doing. All right, so I'll give you an example here of in the past when I was transitioning to a new team, and I was transitioning into it as a manager. I had one individual on the team who had mentioned that they wanted to become team lead. Unfortunately, we never spoke about it again until I let them know that somebody else was becoming the team lead. And oh boy, like the difficult conversations that ensued, the emotional conversations that happened, and just the effect on, myself and them, of course, peers and managers and things like that. It was no fun. And I felt like a big reason was because I failed to set expectations correctly and have those conversations, more importantly, about what the expectations are of a team lead. How do we decide who becomes a team lead? What are the responsibilities and everything else like that? So I have learned my lesson ever since then, and this is me sharing it with y'all. All right, some action items that I recommend for folks is number 1, study your career matrix or your career ladder. It just helps everyone if you know and understand and can articulate what things like a large project means, in your career matrix, if that is a verbiage that you use. But generally in career matrices or career ladders, there's some verbiage that's used that's objective. So making sure that you can explain it to others what that means, I think it's super, super important. And then, alongside this, having an idea about what is important to the company so that you can articulate that as well when you're having those type of conversations. The second is scheduling a quarterly or any cadence that makes sense for your company, a sync with each team member that you have to go over the career ladder. That, generally what I like to do is I like to talk about at their current level where they're at, and the next level, what does that look like? So they have a good understanding of, things to concentrate on next and things like that. You can also create like a proper career path of things that they can do, especially when they're coming on the cusp. Okay, third is communicate early and often. This one we all know. I feel like this is not a surprise to anybody, but I think it's a great reminder. And I also feel like this graphic here explains really well of, most people's communications here. And what people think is too much is this amount. and what actual good communication looks like. And so basically that means repetition. I have heard or I have read, but don't quote me on this, is that it takes approximately 7 times for you to repeat something to make sure that everyone has heard it / begun to absorb it. So that repetition, just highly recommend it. You know, keep going. And especially the more important a particular message is, say it over and over again. An example here is, suppose you create another team and you need to, you know, form another team for whatever reason, for your company to grow. You have a new product maybe that you're going to start, or some infrastructure space that you need to begin. Make sure that folks know the whys behind it, what the responsibilities are, and continue to repeat it. That repetition just really makes sure that people have absorbed it. And also one thing that I recommend is to use the different tools at your disposal. So things both verbal and written. So Slack or whatever, you know, chat communication tool you use, you know, use that. Zoom, if that's what you use, email, or if it's like, you know, customer related articles or podcasts and things like that have been super helpful. All right, and then communicate early and often. All right, so this is super dense. I will try and just summarize it here. So like I said, if you have an important message, create a plan of how you'd like your team members to absorb it. So especially if there's something changing, and if it's like a company-wide, organization-wide message that you want to get, think about how you would want to present that information, you know, avoiding, of course, you know, you can present it in all hands, but then that repetition is really important afterwards. And then the second one that I feel like is really important, especially as your organization grows, is make sure that your team members have an avenue to talk to you, and not just, you know, oh, okay, yeah, I'm always available on Slack. That's great, but nobody's going to reach out to you, or at least very few people will reach out to you. So setting up those regular office hours, or setting up one-on-ones, if you can do that, or until you can do that, I think is wonderful. And that communication and feedback that comes through it, I think has profound effects. 3 and 4 is more like letting your organization know what you're working on. I think is really important. I actually just set up Daily Bot at Ockam, and it's great. And that's basically what it is like virtual stand-up. So, you know, every day you're asked like the 3 agile questions. What did you do yesterday? What are you planning on doing today? Do you have any blockers? And that's something that I find really important to do myself as well, so that folks know what I'm working on. And that transparency just really helps to build that trust. Number 4, this is more of a product side of the house, but something that I've seen profound effects on, where whenever you have customers begin to use your product, tell people why they're using your product. What is their, you know, what is their situation, scenario, use case, all of that jazz. And even if there are potential customers who did not choose to use your product, why is that? Number 5, I feel like that can be like a whole separate conversation, is vulnerability, and you yourself taking the torch and being vulnerable. And that means things like, if you're not doing good, and if you have days where you're like, oh, man, I'm just not feeling it, it's okay to let your team members know and just be like, hey, I need a couple hours off. I'm going to go chill out, relax. Or, you know, if my family's sick or something like that, it's fine. Like let people know, you know, model that environment of open communication and transparency. All right, so number 4, this is my favorite one out of all of these. I feel like without empathy and kindness, I really don't know how an environment of trust or engagement can be created. I really believe that this is the backbone to creating long-lasting trust. And when you have an environment of kindness, the safety that emerges from that, the conversations that take place instead of people hesitating to speak up, the morale boost, the wanting to learn, the wanting to share, is just really profound on your company and on the product or the outcome that you are working on. All right, so in the past, I'll tell you a little story about in the past and where I felt like this was kind of a big game changer and a realization for me of kindness. So I started out my career working as an engineer, and I did that for like almost 10 years or so. And I worked in bigger companies. So I'll just say that first, and not to say anything bad about them. Big companies are great. But when I was working at those companies, the more senior engineers, and I think we've probably all had a form of this some way or the other, but they weren't really conducive to like asking questions. There's many times where I would ask a question, somebody would like roll their eyes, give me a half answer, or it was just something where it became we're asking a question to a senior member of the team was tough. I started at another company, and I had to give a talk at a conference, and this was like I was 6 months into the company, and this particular talk was a technical talk, and I had understood like the high level and all of that, but I needed some more information and details and things like that. And I was like, okay, well, I knew that my senior engineer, the most senior engineer, like they knew the topic that I wanted to talk about, and they need that in detail. So I messaged them and I was like, hey, can I just book some time with you? I'd like to understand more about this, and gave them the whole context and everything. They were like, yeah, sure. I went into that conversation with them, and it was amazing. They answered more than all the questions that I have, even the silly ones that that sometimes everyone can tend to ask. And they were just really open to it. I walked out of that meeting feeling great, like I had the information that I needed, feeling like, I was still smart. And I just overall just, felt really good and felt really encouraged. And that made me wonder, I was like, well, why, how hard is it to be kind? I feel like this is such an important thing to instill as a leader, an environment where people can ask their questions, and it should be okay and encouraged. So anyway, that was something that after that I was like, as long as I keep going, that's something that's going to be super important to me, to make sure that environment is being created, and especially for the more senior folks, it's more important to them to demonstrate that. All right. Okay. So that was a long thing about there. Okay. So the goal over here is my manager cares about me as a human being. Some action items here that I mentioned before as well. The first one is ask how they're doing as a whole person, and ask them regularly. The topics and the stuff that you will find out here is going to be wonderful. And I feel like it's a really great avenue, for them to let you know and to have deeper conversations. All right, the second one is taking action on feedback that you get. This is more, I didn't know like if it fell under empathy or kindness, but I feel like it kind of does. So basically, like whatever feedback you're getting, talk to people about it if it's not something that you're going to action on. If it is something that you're going to action on, then go ahead and take that action. I feel like that is, being able to view it from an empathetic perspective. And then, it's not kind if you're not taking action on your feedback. Yeah. And then the third one is treat others the way that you want to be treated. I think this is something, again, as everyone knows this, this is something I think that lots of people have been hearing since they were kids. But I think it's a great reminder. Yeah. And a reminder to myself first, and then everyone else. All right. This is the last one. This one is one of those where it might be something that is a little bit unexpected, but I really like this one. So humor and positivity. And I put those two together because I think it's important to have positive humor In other words, not humor that like roasts somebody on your team or like, doesn't make them feel good, but rather humor that uplifts or lightens the atmosphere or neutralizes challenging situations. So we all know, humor lightens up the mood. It creates good and actually great connections with people. And overall, it just makes things way more fun and less boring. And this doesn't mean that you have to like go out and like, take some comedy course or something like that on how to be funny. It's more like just being authentic, be yourself like you are, like, with your friends and family. And also, Joe, caveat there, just, read the room, if you're in like a customer meeting where, their production is blowing up, don't make jokes at that time. So, but anyway, it just means basically just to look for the light in situations, and doing even like small things like adding some fun memes to stuff, or I really like Slack emojis as well. I think that's very much appreciated and just helps situations. All right, and then some of the takeaways here are positive humor, not roasting people, keeping things light even when times are tough. And the third one I feel like is really important, like using humor to give your team hope. And I don't mean like in a bad way where, but in a positive way where you're able to bring that other perspective. So example, like if you're in a tough situation, maybe there's some work that your team's been doing, and then you kind of have to shift course, bringing that other perspective of, yeah, like, this is the why behind it. This can be used in this way, or even things like where, all right, well, this keeps things, entertaining. And that's that's kind of the part of, life that it makes things spontaneous. All right. And then small things, like I mentioned, emojis and memes and such. All right. So all together, these are the 5 main takeaways that we talked about. So quality of your one-on-one, setting expectations, communication, early and often, empathy and kindness, humor and positivity. Like I mentioned, I know that these were pretty dense, but it was great talking to you all about this. And I hope that there was pieces in there that were helpful. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Amazing. Yeah, we have tons of questions to dive into. So what we'll do, we'll take like 5-10 minutes now so we can dive into some of those questions, and then do just a little bit less time at the end for the breakout discussions. So yeah, really, really great tips for building trust, and yeah, lots of great feedback in the chat about, for example, the importance of doing humor in a way that doesn't roast people. Yeah. And so one of the things I wanted to ask is thinking about the unique challenge of building trust in a remote environment and all your experiences with that. I'm curious, if you go through those 5 items, is there anything you've learned about, like, how is supporting those different 5 aspects, how is it different when doing remote? Do you have any tips for kind of doing that trust building, when maybe people have never met their team members in person, or, with this new world that we're in?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a big thing, like the remote aspect, when people have never met. There are things like on the team building side that I definitely do. There's a lot of stuff, or like online, that I've done before, where things like events, where Airbnb experiences, online experiences, like those type of things. And those are great tools to use and activities to do with your team that are outside of work, and that help to build that type of connection. Another small thing that I do is just icebreakers on a regular. So making sure that every now and then we do some icebreakers, we go around the room and just like, talk about different things. A couple of other things that I've seen that helps out are unstructured collaboration time. I've actually set that in the past with some of my teams. And that's actually, it is on more on like the work side, but it's an unstructured time where people can just like come to the table, ask their questions, talk about things. And that's helped as well. And then we also have social chat times where it's kind of like the water cooler, conversations to make sure that that type of stuff is happening. And that's been super helpful. So. Yeah.
Great. Those are such great examples. I'm seeing some comments in the chat too about other people resonating with those. Love the unstructured, but we're in the same virtual room time.
Yep.
One other one that I wanted to weave in, and I feel free to keep adding questions, and then we're gonna weave in some of the questions that came throughout. So another one was around how one-on-ones and video calls are so important for building team. I'm just gonna mute you, Kevin. Thank you. All the one-on-ones and the unstructured time and the games and all of that being so important for building trust. And we also know that screen fatigue can be a real thing. And so I'm just curious what you've seen or how you've navigated that challenge of the let's get together and we have to do it through a screen, but also we don't want to have too much screen time.
Yeah, totally. So there's a couple of things that I've done there. Sometimes I'll do one-on-ones are, I feel like, great opportunities where you and your manager or whoever you're talking to, if it's in a one-on-one situation, and if you don't have to share a screen with them and you don't have to do some active, work, and it can be just audio, taking it from outside, going out, taking a walk and just talking to them. That has helped in the past. And I also try and do, for example, if we're doing a no site off site type of a thing, I try and make sure that I don't do a full day off site. We're doing just half a day or even less than that, maybe just an hour or two. And then the rest of it is all async time and things that you can do on your own and you don't have to be, stuck on Zoom. We've also done things where we just turn off our video. So a couple of the meetings that I've had in the past, just turn off video and it's just audio so that, you can, you just don't have to be staring at other people all the time. You're still in front of a screen. I mean, you can take it outside and take it on your phone and things like that. But that's something that's helped.
Cool. Thanks so much for that. The screen fatigue is so real, and a lot of the solutions are very online, obviously, and often I'm just I just want to hop off as soon as possible. But then you don't get any of that sort of water cooler banter and things. So oh yes, so we've had a few questions along similar themes from Polly, Samora, Julian. And so the big theme is around how we get people in the same team with quite different social, political views, different backgrounds. Some people who are much more open to things like training and personal development on microaggressions or DEI versus people who are less keen on that sort of thing. How do you get people having trust, being open and collaborating effectively when you've got that sort of when we've got those differences in a team?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So one of the things about building trust is that it takes time, and it's not like a flip of the switch type of a thing. And to me, these small things that you do to set the steps up to get your team to continue to engage is really those small things are what leads up to people wanting to share more. And I feel like the biggest thing is that vulnerability and also being an example of it yourself. I feel like it's difficult for somebody to open up if you're not opening up yourself. So for example, if you're doing these icebreaker things and you have a question that is around D&I, you answer that yourself first and you set the stage so that other people can pick up from that. And I think it's just small steps, and over time is what builds that environment of trust. I don't think there's like any like shortcut where it's like, bzz, like, we're going to get there right away. It's just that time taken, and that, people knowing that you yourself and the teams that they work with are people that you can, or that they feel comfortable with. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to do one last question and then we'll go into the breakout groups. And I know some of these others we haven't gotten to, but we have been making note of them. So we'll follow up about those. And the last one was one that's also come up a few times. And it's around this question of structures that work when you're thinking about a hybrid environment. And you've got some people who are virtual and then some people who are on site. And so, yeah, just also wanting to hear things that you've learned with that, especially again, in the context of how can we build trust and treat people equitably when they have these different ways that they get to engage with others on the team.
Yeah, that's something that at Rackspace, we definitely came across. And I felt like the thing that helped the most was basically treating everybody like they were working remotely. So example, like there's situations where sometimes, folks in one location want to have a meeting, but they want to have it in a specific meeting room, and then they'll have other people like join in. Like that situation, in my opinion, doesn't work well because it's just not fair for the people who are remote. It's hard to like, get into conversations when you're remote and when everybody's like sitting in a room and all of that. So I would actually ask everybody to join from their own laptops and to make it as equitable to everybody as possible, that environment, is the same. And then it was kind of the same thing, like the team building, all of that also is done, online. Of course, there's going to be water cooler conversations that are going to happen with people who are on site, but then doing the same thing online as well is really important. Like those social chats, every week or multiple times a week. And I think also there's that empathy portion, right? Like the people who are on site, making sure that they're just aware, like, hey, if you were working remotely, this is kind of like the impact of this type of stuff. Make sure to, let's make sure that we're being inclusive and things like that. And yeah, those are some of the things that helped.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And just on that note of you were talking about with the keeping things in Slack, I've just adding to that, something we've been trying to practice is, in particular, if there's been a decision, to make sure it's in Slack. I've definitely been guilty of having the quick chat and making a call and then forgetting to share it with the whole team. But yeah, just want to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights. Have tons of takeaways. And so, yeah, just want to run through kind of some next steps. We'll share the slides, we'll share the recording, and we'll also share some takeaways. So watch for that. We'll send it out on the meetup group, so you'll get it there, and we'll share it out on socials. We also, I just want to thank those of you who will be tuning in the future and just watching this portion. Thanks so much for joining. We'll turn off the recording in a second. So it's great to have you here. For everyone, we will be sending out a survey at the end of this. So the tech leader chats are still a pretty early experiment on our part. And so we're always keen to learn and kind of weave in the feedback. We also have a Slack group. So we'll share the takeaways from this there. And then we do a weekly resource roundup of just interesting articles and a cool action tip, which we'll often source from the community. So some of you here have actually inspired action tips that we've shared with the community in the past. And then our next tech leader chat is coming up very soon, actually in 2 weeks. And it's going to be about how to support juniors and make your workplace a really great place for them to start their career and have a great launch pad to the rest of it. So anyway, that's all the ask there. We'll now turn off the recording, and then I'll go ahead and share my screen.